In the previous clip, I talked about how there were multiple researchers coding using the same code book. And this is a strategy that you can use in order to increase reliability. So you can have like a second analyst, and then they can just like code on their own without looking at your codes, and you can have actually multiple people doing that, and then somebody will combine all the codes, or you can have a group discussion about the different codes, and after you have coded that first time, and then go a second time after you all have discussed the codes and maybe define the codes and have some instructions in a code book. So there are ways that you can present the data in a more visual way. So I think that most people, especially like decision makers, they understand the material better when it is displayed in a way that is like visual. And you can have just very simple visual displays, like just using tables or graphs or maps or just concepts, theoretical frameworks, things like that. And here is like an example from like Max Q&A. So this is the one software that I told you about that is like for mixed methods, and you can use like quantitative analysis. So basically every time that you code something, it will say that you did that, and it will also keep some of the data that might be associated with that code as well. For example, if a person lives in an urban area or in a suburban area, assuming that you coded for that, so you can actually like see differences in like how people spoke about maybe taking public transportation inside of the urban area versus the suburban areas, or maybe something related to gender. So it may be a good idea to just also offer some quantitative analysis, because it provides additional evidence for decision makers. So you can do that if you have a survey, but if not, you can try to quantify like how many times you receive a comment about having like encampments in parks, for instance, and how people felt unsafe, or about lighting, things like that. So you could see something like a majority or 60% of people indicated that this action was good, or they felt insecure in the parks when blank. So I think that again, decision makers do like when you quantify things. In for qualitative researchers and for research purposes, this is like a lot less popular, but in for more like popular analysis and for the general public and decision makers, this will be very useful. So you can also create word clouds, and you have seen those. And another thing that you can do is for Max Q&A is that you can associate like positive or negative feelings, or maybe in a like or scared, it would be like very strong positive feelings, and it's somewhat strong and neutral, and so on. And you can color code those things, so it can show you an example of like feelings, or it can have other characteristics demonstrated in just like a different kinds of charts. Another thing that you can do, especially if you don't have Max Q&A, you have to pay for that software, is that you can create like a little table of like a big topic, and then kind of smaller topics that go inside of that, and just have it in a very visual way. So this one is about traffic safety, and as you can see, it has like traffic safety culture, and then it has like some comments or codes that like the lack of road safety knowledge, the lack of compliance with traffic laws. And if people see these, they will be able to get what were all the things that were discussed in a conversation that took 1.5 hours, or in 6 conversations that took 1.5 hours. And then you can also do a conceptual map. So this conceptual maps is about the location patterns and affordable housing. And again, this is kind of like, it could be about the topics that were presented in the particular, in all the things that you looked at. So it could be the letters as well, or focus groups, interviews. This is a mind map. So this is just more generic kind of mind map. We saw a mind map or concept mapping, as I James Creighton describe it in the book. So this is something that, again, you can do to facilitate how people understand the data. Another thing that James Creighton's mentioned is that it's always a good idea to get back to people if they provide public feedback. And this is more of an issue when people send a letter to you or an email. And if they submit a comment, you must respond and also have, some feedback for them. Once you decide to respond, you can say like how what they said has affected your decision making. And I actually don't see this enough in reports in planning. I think it's a good idea. I just don't see enough evidence that people actually like communicate how the public comments have affected the decision making. So whenever possible, just please write how your decisions change or were altered because of the public. And if we all busy, and you have to be kind to yourself too. Like, you will receive a lot of different comments, and you will interact with a lot of people. If you receive comments by email or even by phone or letters, you should definitely respond to people directly. I have seen some organizations responding to all public comments, so not directly to that person, but they might send an email saying, this is all the public comments that we got. These are kind of like a summary of them. And we change the text or language in the plan in section E1 to this based on the comments that we got. So I will see that is kind of more general, right? So it's not precisely responding to you as an individual, but it's like we responded to all the public comments together. And you most likely will not respond to a lot of the comments and will not incorporate most comments that people give you. So again, because of time constraints, because of just financial realities, and because of other parameters as well, especially if you have to change the specific text on of a plan. So some of those things that you suggest, especially if you're suggesting in a particular paragraph to change X, Y, and Z, so they might take that into consideration. But if it's like something that is outside of the scope, or something that is like too big for them to go and research, or like having to add like more public participation on things like that, those comments most likely would not be addressed. And that's like it for our lecture on like how to analyze the public comments.